I am sorry, I am from Germany, and I am suffering from severe chronic fatigue syndrome, myalgic encephalomyelitis. I'm right now in my second major crash in 12 years. I have started with raw food in 2011, and it helped me pretty fast to go again, be able walking and so on. And I even managed to study again. I'm 59 now. So in my early 50s, I had a cognitive decline test saying like the first run was 30 points, very normal, but 5 minutes later, it was only 16.
16.
And 16. And I mean, I don't sleep very much, so I cannot. And now this time when I crashed because of the stress of pandemic, etc., it was just my symptom, my system couldn't take it. I went back to total raw food before I had swifted Dr. Joel Fuhrman diet and such stuff. I went back to complete raw protocol, but it did not help. Really, I was kind of shocked. And also, I have to say, I find myself now more mentally impaired. Like back then, I could, after 2 years in my major crash, I was already further back to reading. Like when I was 7, I was reading 5 books per week from that time on, like news magazine and so on. So reading is my little finger capacity. And all this is really declining. Like I can read 2 to 5 pages per day, which asks high focus. So I'm worried and I wonder how could I help or be helped?
So thank you for mentioning, thank you for asking. So this is, again, you are a perfect example of exactly what we talked about today. So you have a process that has some ongoing inflammatory process. Your brain is responding to that. And as you said, you mentioned here in your note that it's like long COVID. Absolutely. You have what started really as brain fog, but from what you're saying, it's really progressed far beyond typical brain fog. And when you said 16, are you talking about an MMSE or a MoCA score, or which sort of score? Because if it's 16 out of 30, that is relatively far along, just as you've said. So we need to now, you did part. You went to some raw food. That's all fine. But remember, that's helping you to respond better, but it's not taking away what's actually causing it. So the question is, have you been evaluated for chronic inflammatory things like various herpes viruses, a relatively common cause to cognitive decline, exposure to mold and mycotoxins, a relatively common cause of cognitive decline, other chronic illnesses, tick-borne illnesses, things like that. Do you have leaky gut? So something is still affecting you, so that when you try to start some treatment, which is fine, you did that right, there's still an ongoing problem. As long as you've got that ongoing problem, it's going to be very hard to turn around. Now, you mentioned that you're in Germany, is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay. So you have one big advantage. Germany is the home of the IGL test. And I don't know, have you had the IGL test?
I don't think so. It doesn't, I'm not familiar with the
So a group in Germany, check out IGL.
Yes.
A group in, we're starting to use that here, and groups in the US are starting to use it. It's a really interesting test. And it has combined epigenetics with studies of mitochondrial function and toxicity, and looking for what's actually driving the problem for each person. So, and I think, you're a perfect example, perfect, case for where someone could potentially find out. So this will help tell you what is actually driving this. Are there specific toxins? One of the things they look at is, are there toxins actually bound to your DNA that are impacting you? And I have to say, I was skeptical when I first heard about this test because it sounded a little hokey. But I've talked to the group there. It is a pretty interesting test. And one of the physicians in the US has been using it extensively and getting some very good results with it. So you have the great good fortune of being right there in the home country. And then I would link with someone who has been trained in reversal of cognitive decline and to address the thing. Because it sounds like what's happened and happens to many people. You've begun the process, but you haven't identified what's actually causing the problem. So you haven't gotten your best outcome. And unfortunately, you're not on the right side of that curve yet. So you're still declining. We've got to address more of the features here. So understanding them, identifying them, and then addressing those, whether it's because you have ongoing viral infections, tick-borne illness, mycotoxins, leaky gut, or it's an oral microbiome issue. You need to know your oximetry. Are you dropping your SpO2 at night? That's another critical determinant. Unfortunately, human beings are complicated. And there are many reasons that our brains can fail to provide the normal service. And that's exactly what you're describing here. So let's find out. And again, the IGL test can be helpful to you.